Hello, Internet. It's me, it's the Cybersmith. So, we all know that thanks to Keir Starmer and his globalist goons, the economy is not doing so well. Like many of you, I am between jobs. So, it would be nice, I thought, to give you an indication of how you can do some bulk meal preparation. In this case, I'm going to show you how to make a meat pie. First thing I'm going to do is go over ingredients. So this is going to be a meat pie with homemade chips and some lettuce. Lettuce here from the fridge. Just going to keep this in the fridge because it's going to be the last thing that I add, so no point keeping it out of the fridge any longer than needed because I got that yellow label. Always look for yellow labels in supermarkets. That means something is reduced in price. It's cheaper. If you keep it in the fridge or the freezer, it'll last longer. For example, here is the meat. I haven't quite chopped up this gammon, but I got this yellow label, put it in the freezer till I needed it. Chicken. Got some very lovely yellow label chicken breasts. They were just about to go off. They've just finished defrosting, so I took them out, chopped them up. So let's go over what ingredients are going to be used for each thing. So, first thing, got half an onion left over from the last time I made a pie. Lasts a good long while. I wouldn't really keep it any longer than this. Couple weeks, maybe 3 weeks. But I'm going to use the other half of it now. Got my meat, obviously. Got a nice industrial-sized container of sunflower oil. That's worth getting those delivered, just because the benefit of a bulk purchase. If you've got a car and you've been bulking up at the gym, just buy them from the supermarket, carry them. Get the big containers, you'll save money that way. Plus, less packaging, good for the environment. Got some flour. This is plain wholemeal. You can just plain flour works. I saw an offer that actually made the plain wholemeal was worth as much as just normal flour. So I thought, well, I'm not passing that up. That's cheap. That's nice cheap wholemeal flour. As long as I got more than one of them, so I'm using that to thicken it out. Got some nice unsalted British butter. That's also going to help thicken it out. I got these ages ago. They last forever. Chicken stock. This was, I think, from Aldi's, so you can get that very, very cheap. You can also use, if you prefer, vegetable stock or ham stock. For example, here is some, I think that's chicken too. Yeah, I've also got some vegetable stock over there. That also works. That's fine to use too, if that's what you'd prefer. So as I said, I'm going to chop up, this is smoked gammon. I prefer unsmoked, but this is what was on offer. So I'm going to chop this up. I've got sweet chili sauce to help flavour it, honey for flavour, red food dye. This is very important. You're using cheap cuts of meat, so it's not going to look as nice as a professionally prepared meal you get in a restaurant, because most people don't know these little tricks. Like cheap food dye will make it look a lot nicer, and that will prime your brain into making it taste nicer. So these are going to be the main ingredients for the pie. Now, there's also going to be some salt, but you'll know that I've got the salt over here, because this is how we're going to discuss what we're going to be using to make some chips. So I've got 2 potatoes here. You can buy potatoes in bulk as well, nice and cheap to do that. Put them in the fridge. They'll last a good long while. Just take them out, I'd say about 6 hours before you're going to use them. You don't want really cold potatoes when you're doing that. To make the seasoning for that, I will also be using some of the oil, but let's just go over the other ingredients. I'm going to be using some sugar, some table salt, some garlic granules, which I will also use for the meat pie, some ground cumin, some ground sweet cinnamon. You can get some of this stuff very cheap. Some of it's stuff I brought off. I think some of it, that's from my last flat actually. It lasts for ages. Some of these are ingredients I've had for well over a year, just now getting around to using. Asphodita, whatever it is. And mild chili powder. You mix those up with some cooking oil. That's the seasoning that we're going to get for the potatoes. So those are the ingredients that we're going to go over. I think I will upload this as a portion on its own. And I'm going to go over the various cautions of cooking it. I'll probably edit these all together into one, put them up on YouTube. So yeah, this is hopefully going to be very informational, useful to people online. Okay, next step is going to be preparation. Now, there's one ingredient I forgot to mention last time, and that is the pastry. This is a Just Roll short crust pastry block. You can freeze these. So what you do is you either look for them to be yellow labelled, or look for a bulk discount if you can order them online. I've got like, you just check, I've got so many of these. Like there was an offer on buying them on bulk, so I just got a lot of them. You know that I've chopped up the gammon. Cooking bacon is usually what I use. If I hadn't found yellow label gammon, I would have bought some cooking bacon. But this, I've put the onion in the blender, about to blend that. Peeled and chopped my potatoes. Got kettle full of water that I can boil later. Got my measuring jug. Though that's how I'm going to be making the. Oh, one other thing I forgot to mention. Whole milk powder. Yep, we're also going to be using that just to add a little bit of thickness and flavour to the sauce. So that's also being prepared and put out there. So that's a personal preference. You don't have to use that if you'd rather not. Also, you may have noticed I've changed. It's getting quite hot. So I realised that I haven't even switched the oven on yet. So when I start actually cooking things, it's going to get very hot. So winter can't come soon enough. So eventually I will oil the interior of this. I'm going to wait till I've cleared up some more space on the work surfaces. Don't need to oil this yet. I'll put the pastry block in it. That's going to be like one of the last steps. So first, put some oil in these and these. This one is going to be for the onion, which blend. And this one is going to be for the meat. Chicken first, then the gammon. So when that's well underway and it's time to start adding liquid in, I'll start the next step. But this is how we start. Okay, we're now starting the process of browning these. Just be sure to use wooden implements, by the way. Metal, and you risk scratching the Teflon surface of the pan, and plastic, you risk melting it and potentially releasing harmful vapours and fumes. So wood is best for this. Notably, I've got the onions on a slightly lower heat than the meat, which I've got on max heat. As this chicken slowly turns white and then brown, I am going to add in the bacon. Oh, sorry, in this case, the gammon. Once I've got that done, I'm going to start heating up the kettle and get ready for the step of adding liquid. This is where you've got to be quite careful with the timing, and I'm going to need two hands. This is the most time sensitive part. You go too far in this side, you can overheat things. Once we've added the liquid, it becomes a lot easier and the whole thing slows back down again. But this is the time where you've really got to be sharp and focused. So I'm going to do that. All the various liquid things you add. So I'm going to first add the stock. Then I'm going to add some milk powder, honey, the sweet sauce. Going to thicken it with some butter, some flour. Just going to sprinkle flour over again. Going to add the food dye at that stage to make sure it gets the right colour. But this is what has to happen first. Need to make sure that this is all properly white, and then just as it starts to brown, add in the rest of the meat. This should then start to brown about the same time the meat does. We don't want this burned. If this starts to go black, we know we've gone too far. We just want this nice and brown, because that means it's nice and ready to add. And that provides a nice flavour base. When you're dealing with cheap cuts of meat, you know, cheap gammon and smoked in this case, or cooking bacon and chicken, you want to add more flavour to it. You want to add things like onion and garlic and sweet chili sauce. You want to add things like honey and salt. When you've got a good quality cut of meat, like if you've got a nice piece of lamb or a nice high quality piece of beef or turkey, maybe you just add some salt, maybe you just add some butter, you want to maybe even add some vinegar. Just bring out the normal flavour of the meat. Actually, I do have some vinegar. I've got a nice large container of vinegar here and some backup milk powder in case the normal milk powder isn't enough. This is a huge, got a nice industrial bit, ordered this again. This will last me years. I've had this for I think over a year now. I might add that to I might add that to some milk, make some buttermilk instead of just putting milk in. So add extra milk powder to some hot water. You see, this is starting to get to the point where I'll add the meat, the rest of the meat. Once I've got that up, I'll be just about at the point where, you know what, I'm just going to turn the heat up on this, because this is not going, yeah, turn the heat up on the onion just to make sure that comes across the right speed and browns at the right speed, because this is very close to the point where I'm going to start adding in the, yeah, with a nice high quality bit of meat, you don't want to add too much flavour, you just want to bring out the flavour. But with this, because the meat isn't super high quality, I want to, you know, essentially make my own flavour, add flavour to it, because there's not a lot of flavour there to bring out. So it all depends on the quality of the meat. You know, chicken, cooking bacon, cheap gammon, add flavour, add seasoning. Expensive, nice cut of meat, beef, gammon, you know, high quality gammon, lamb, mutton, turkey, that sort of thing. You just want to enhance the flavour that's already there. Okay, as I said, I'm going to need 2 hands for this. This is the sensitive part, so I'll just switch off now. Okay, so here we come to the liquid phase. I've actually taken this off the heat. I think this is done frying. You see, brown but not black. Just need a little bit longer on the meat here, because I want to fry this, not boil it. Just starting to turn brown. And you see, my kettle is about ready to pop, and I've broken up 3 of these little stock cubes. So this will be the first point at which we add moisture. We don't want it too runny because it's a pie, not a stew. So we're gonna almost just let that for a while. Please, still got plenty more moisture, so we can both add and remove moisture, which is useful. So take a spoon, stir this, make sure this turns into a nice proper. The trouble is with low quality cuts of meat, you do sometimes get them reducing quite a bit of moisture, which can limit your ability to fry. So, as I said, we're not really trying to fry so much as brown. But what I may want to do, because yeah, I think this is its ability to fry. What I arguably should have done is get a sieve or colander just to be able to, because I don't want to spill any of it, but let some of that liquid out to better fry it. Yeah, don't want to spill any of the meat, but I do want to better fry what is in here, or better heat and sear what is in here, because I want it to go through that initial transformation. After that, we're going to turn down the temperature, but for that phase of adding the liquid, okay. Basically, how solid does the meat look? Okay. I think there's a few bits I'm just going to stir in. Yeah, a few bits are still not quite seared the edges. It's important to do this step without liquid, so I do actually wish I'd prepared a colander. It's just a bit hard to do that with one hand when I'm holding a camera, to drain some of the moisture out, because that's liquid reading. It's the trouble is it's limiting it faster than it boils away. But I think the meat is now, yeah, I think the meat is now about ready. So how is this? Okay. I think we're now ready to add. So now you'll notice the sound immediately goes down because we've added the liquid. We are now not frying or searing this anymore. We now want to add in our brown but not black onion. And this is where we're going to start getting the basis of our flavour. So then we're going to start boiling up the rest of this. And I think just to ensure proper thickness, I actually am going to add a little bit of vinegar with the whole milk powder. I'll get another spoon just to help with that. This is also a pretty good time to start adding in flavourants. So I did mention I was going to add a little bit of that to it. That's stirring that around. That's getting added in. Going to add in some table salt. So this will be the liquid portion we're doing. And sorry, just got to put the camera down for a moment. Just hard to open that top with one hand. I'm going to use some of this. I'm going to turn this temperature down here. This does not need to be so hot now. Stir that in. Just let the flavour soak in and distribute itself around the meat. We'll thicken it later. I know this is way too runny right now. So we've got our nice boiling water there. We're going to now see about getting some milk. I don't know what the maximum up limit for an individual video portion is. This is going to be over 5 minutes. So we spoon in some milk powder. We then stir that, make sure that's all nicely dissolved. We then, where did I put it? Here we go. As I said, this is a great point to start. Can I open this with one hand? I can. This is a good point to start adding in colour. And now we just add a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit, and this is going to be the trickiest thing to do with just one hand. Ooh, having a third arm would be so useful. Just got to take the cap off. Add a little bit of vinegar. Now that is going to transform itself into something called buttermilk, which is a thicker, flavourful type of milk that we can use and combine with that. Just going to pop this cap back on. So as I said, this is way too thick currently, and it's going to get even runnier when we add this. But part of what we're going to be doing here is, in the next step, is thickening it up. Okay, I'm going to try to keep this section to no more than 7 minutes. So you see how we're starting to get this lovely reddish pink coloration? And yeah, doesn't that look a lot more appetizing now? We can add a little bit more food coloring later if it's too pale of a pink. Just let this cool a bit because this is still really hot. But the next section we do is going to be about thickening. Hello. So I've just been leaving this to simmer. I'm going to turn the heat back up just a little bit. I had to go upload those last 2 sections of video, which took a little bit of time. So I added the honey, by the way, but this is not quite looking the colour I'd like it to be. So I will just add a little bit more red and stir that in. But yeah, I thought it might be worth talking about why not a lot of people do this nowadays. I've also cut up some butter. You'll see why soon. This is fine, by the way. You can leave this out. The colour's starting to change a bit, but obviously I'd rather it's a little bit reddish and a little bit greenish, which what it was before, so that's fine. Leave the potatoes out. Do you know that before, I think, the late 1700s, restaurants and takeaways weren't really very common? Most people would either cook their own food, or if they lived in an extended household, there would be a designated person who cooked the food. Restaurants, takeaways, these things were invented by the Illuminati so that we would spend way more money than we need to on food. They deliberately took this kind of education outside of our schools. I had to learn all this sort of stuff myself or from my parents. I'm largely autodidactic, or I've asked my parents how to do this sort of thing. No one taught it to me at school. They don't want us to know that we can do this because they want us to spend our money on restaurants. Certainly, with everything that's been going on recently, the Illuminati has revealed too much of their hand. Killing Charlie Kirk wasn't just evil, it was a massive miscalculation on their part. So we are going to wage holy war on them. And when we win, everyone will have the time and the space in their kitchens to cook their own food, and everyone will be taught how to cook as well. You'll be able to learn it at your school if you don't learn it from your parents. So everyone will cook whatever they want, or they'll have live-in sissy maids to cook it for them. And we won't have to spend people might still go to restaurants if they want to, but most people, I think, will spend most of the time cooking on their own. We'll all have the time and the space we need for it when the Illuminati and tax collectors aren't ruining it for us. So we'll all be able to have our food exactly as we like it. So as you see, this is way too runny at the minute. So what we're going to do is, you'll see how I've cut this butter up into pieces. That increases the surface area to volume ratio. Sorry, it's a bit hard to do this with two hands. So it's because I've cut the butter up into pieces, you can see. Stir that throughout. That will start the process of thickening it. Maybe add just a little... have I used too much honey? A little bit more honey to flavour it. Now, most of this liquid that we want to boil off is water, so just a little bit more honey to thicken it, I think, and that's enough honey, so I can put the honey away. Most of the liquid we want to get rid of is water, so boiling that off as we simmer will go part of the way to solving that problem. And you see here. The rest of that we are going to solve with both the butter, and I want that butter to gradually mix in. Then we're going to start sprinkling in flour. Now, the other thing I'm going to do with the flour, you see I've got the rolling pin out. I'm also going to start using the flour to help me roll out the pastry, but don't need to do that first. I'll also have to grease up the pan with some of the baking dish with some oil. So you know how I'm just using this and I'm just sprinkling this in. I am not dumping it all in at once, I'm sprinkling it. The reason that I am sprinkling it is I don't want it to clump up. I want it to then stir and then sprinkle again. So I don't want this to clump up, I want this to distribute nice and evenly. Now we've got this very lovely, delicious looking rich red colour. I don't think we need to add any more food colouring. So I think that's, and just close that bottle now. But do want to just keep sprinkling in flour like that. I'm going to keep doing that now that I've added the butter. If I also add in the flour, and just, again, don't want to spill any, but I just want to sprinkle that in. Sprinkle a handful in evenly, then stir, then go back to sprinkle in another handful. Want it to nice, even distribution all over. So I'm going to keep doing that, and that should, over time, oops, spilled a little bit. Sorry, that's clumsy. Fortunately, I live alone, so I'm the only one who's going to have to clean that up. If you share a kitchen with others, you've got to be a lot more careful because you don't want to make a mess that someone else is going to have to deal with if they're using the kitchen right after you, or if you're cooking for a family. But I'm going to keep doing this to kind of thicken this. Okay. The last video uploaded okay, so I know that as long as I'm under 7 minutes, I should be good. So there's a few more times. Yeah, but ultimately, leaving that to thicken is just going to have to be a work of patience and, and repetition. But as that gets thicker, I'll then turn the temperature back down again, start preparing the pastry, and when this is properly thick, I can put it in, start baking it, and because it takes a little bit less time to fry the chips than it does to bake the pie, I'll put the pie in first, then season and anoint the chips, put that in the air fryer, set that to 15 minutes, and I'll be able to have the pie and the chips come out at the same time. I'll have enough time to put my shirt back on, get the lettuce ready. So this is going to be an absolutely delicious meal. And we will all eat like this one day when we've vanquished the leftists. Okay, so you can see this has thickened nicely, and oh my gosh, look at that. It is such a rich, almost cherry red, sanguine, meaty. This is going to activate at a subconscious level the carnivorous part of your brain, and you're going to feel like a caveman again. It's going to feel delicious. Now, I've rolled the block out, so we've still got to grease this up. I've put all the powders and things in there. Oh, one thing I forgot that I should have mentioned before. So I've mentioned asafoetida. What was the thing? I've added it, but I'd mentioned... Oh, yeah. Here we go. Turmeric. Basically, all of the yellowy, browny herbs, yellowy, reddy, orangey ones. Not the green ones, but the other ones. You want to add those in. So that's there. So I'm just going to grease this up. I've switched off the heat there. Just going to keep stirring it so nothing sticks to the bottom. But this is now thickened enough that it should make a good pie filling. Then make the pie dish and transfer. That's going to need more hands than I've got. Then just add the oil here to this, put it in these, and I'm ready for the baking step. Okay, been preheating the oven for just a little bit, so gonna slide this in. I'm going to need some oven gloves when I take it out, but it's nice and cool enough to slide in. Leave that to cool before putting it away. This is what's left of the oil, so I'm going to drain that into a jar because you don't want to pour that down the drain. So gather it into a jar. When the jar fills up, you go hide it somewhere or do something else with it. Both drawers are now full of these chips. Now, about 20 minutes for that, so what I'll do is I'll just crack this open so it doesn't activate. I'll set that for about 4 minutes. When that goes off, I'll set both of these for 15. Then, when they go off, I'll actually be ready to cook it all, well, to take it all out, add the lettuce. Actually, take the lettuce out now and put that on the plate. So yeah, bit of a mess, but I can clean that up later. As I said, I live alone, so yeah, this is how it all works. Don't use too much cinnamon, by the way, when using it. Just enough to give it that lovely, nice brown kind of aesthetic to it, which will make the chips look nicer when they're out. Give them a lovely golden brown colour. Okay, got it all plated up. Just added some salt. Here we see, got the pie, came out mostly okay, that slice, and there's plenty more. This will last a good long while. Got my lettuce, got my chips. So yeah, that's some cooking advice that may be useful if, like me, you're currently limited in funds. Do please comment, let me know your thoughts, and also let me know if you'd like to upload this into one video and post it on YouTube.